Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Economic Empowerment Podcast. Today, we have our first really special guest, Mr. Obiocha, and he is the fund director of CTNext. And I'll just go straight into the questions. So, where did your passion of helping economic inclusivity came from?
Yeah, that's a good question, and thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be here. Um, so I think it all started when I was younger. My parents are from Nigeria and immigrated here, and when I was about 10 years old, I had the opportunity to go back to Nigeria, having been born and raised in the United States, and learn a little bit more about my culture, my family, and most important, I think, instill a set of values within me.
Mhm.
That just really excited to help people. And then coming from that, I've always been interested in business. So, the values I got from my Nigerian upbringing, through my visit to Nigeria, living there for a year, coupled with, my curiosity around economic development,
Mhm.
brought together this kind of values and inclusive based approach for entrepreneurship and innovation.
I see. Perfect. Yeah, I think backgrounds really shapes like a person's values and where their passion is going. I think that's really important for me as well. So,
Yeah.
what are some barriers that you found on your way as the most challenging barriers in becoming an entrepreneur?
Mm. Wow, that's a good question. I think, a lot of it is information. When you're starting a business, all the information exists, but at least when I was starting my business, it didn't exist in a way where it was easily accessible. So a lot of it was business plan competitions, incubators, accelerators, great mentors. But you know, experience is the best teacher, and I think having people in my network who had a lot more experience, I think would have been a lot helpful and probably was the biggest barrier to achieving success.
Right. And I like how you mentioned there's like the information asymmetry. So I know
Mm,
this really helps with economic empowerment and all the things like that. What are some initiatives that you guys took toward, finance literacy for people to have more, you know, ways to get to the information they want?
yeah. So as an entrepreneur, it was really about the accelerators and incubators, really going and trying to find the right organization that can help us fill the gaps that we have within our own startup process.
Right.
I think from my perspective now at CTNext, as someone who's developing the entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem in the state of Connecticut,
Mhm.
I'm really interested in making sure that from a different perspective, those accelerators and incubators have the resources that they need to be successful. That's really top of mind for me, and we're excited to deploy that strategy in the coming fiscal year.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to see that in the future as well. And so I know, like, because I was doing a little bit of research, so I know that you had your previous experience in your incubator, and coffee business helped you. Like, how has like the coffee business that you did help you with the experience you have right now with CT Next?
Yeah, I think it was crucial. Probably one of the most crucial learning experiences of my life. I think to create, uh, to start a business is incredibly difficult.
Mhm.
To start a product business, whether it's uh, food or consumer packaged goods or tech, to build something and deploy it to an audience, outside of kind of consulting or service-based industry, um, takes a lot of understanding of self first
Right.
and foremost, and then being able to understand what are the opportunities and the ways that I can find success,
Yeah.
whether it's finding the right mentors, finding the right technical assistance help, finding the right incubators and accelerators, finding the right people who can cut checks so it can raise money. So that resource magnetism, I think, was crucial for me. And now in this role, I have the opportunity to build an ecosystem from the vantage point of an entrepreneur, right? Understanding the subtleties in the way that information is gathered, information is spread, and ultimately how that information is deployed for when to start their business, that feedback loop from CTNext directly to the entrepreneurial community is top of mind for me. And I think without my entrepreneurial experience, specifically in the state of Connecticut, specifically seeing the barriers, I
Mhm.
think myself and so many other entrepreneurs faced when launching their businesses, especially from underrepresented backgrounds. I just know that the opportunity is there, and we're at CTNext really excited to just provide clear, accessible, transparent resources for folks to do what it is they want to do.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned that like those two businesses have helped you learn about yourself. So what are some qualities that you think that you have discovered through that process?
Yeah, I think the main quality is just the stick to itiveness. I think as an
Mhm.
entrepreneur, they used to call me assumption owning because I would always walk into a room assuming that we're going to get the deal, assuming that something was going to work out.
Right.
Maybe if it didn't, that's and oftentimes it didn't. That's okay. But I think going in with the mentality of, okay, I know the work I've done, I know what I need to get done, and I'm going to assume the best, but also work each and every day to make sure that best is realized. So I think that was good. Another one is just my own relationship with raising money, asking people for money, asking people for help. Definitely have to evolve over time. I'm not one to previously done this, but really that type of vulnerability that you need as an entrepreneur, and trying to, in as many ways as possible, put your ego aside to listen actively, to engage actively with the wide group of people. And also on the other hand, that ego is going to tell you, Oni, you're meant to do this and you can do it and you can learn, you can work hard and you can achieve it. So really it's, both a pro and a con, and just being able to have the conversations with myself to navigate when my ego needs to show up and when it shouldn't.
Yeah.
And how to build a business around my own personal values, I think is another really important thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of entrepreneurs have those similar kind of mindsets of the work ethic, the grind mindset, and also the vulnerability you mentioned. I think is quite crucial in the entrepreneurship field. And in the current, I want to like shift gears to like in the current Connecticut economic conditions, what are some improvements in legislature that you think should be made to be more inclusive?
Oh, that's interesting. Um, yeah, so I think from a policy standpoint, I don't have a good answer for that right now
Mhm.
because having been in this role for 18 months, I realized that Connecticut has a lot of the resources that it needs in order for entrepreneurs to thrive.
Right.
The fact that CTNext, we're quasi-public organization that was launched out of the legislation body in 2016. I mean, goes to show that we have a pretty progressive, forward-facing, entrepreneurial, innovation-friendly legislature.
Mhm.
So I think, before I think about the policy side, which honestly isn't too top of mind right now,
Mhm.
I want to organize the resources that already exist on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like, I mean, like
Yeah.
I tell folks all the time, I don't want to invite folks into a dirty house.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So you know what I mean? So before
Yeah.
I'm thinking about policy improvements, which I'm sure there are some, and the biggest one that comes to mind is, and I think one of the biggest barriers to entrepreneurship is healthcare being tied to private industry, aka your job. So
Mhm.
if there was a robust, more affordable healthcare access
Right.
or something around universal
Mhm.
healthcare, I mean, it's been shown to drastically increase entrepreneurship, and I think there's a huge opportunity for people who might take that leap, who don't because they don't have the health benefits early on at affordable rate that they need. So outside of that, in terms of the resources that are around the ecosystem, I'm still doing a bit of ecosystem mapping, and I'm excited to kind of come back in our next conversation
Yeah.
with some better suggestions.
Yeah. Perfect. And so because I'm a Gen Z entrepreneur myself, and
Mm,
people who are younger than me, Gen Alpha has faced currently is just basically distrust to start a business because a lot of them don't have enough funds, and a lot of people don't want to give them funds because they don't have the lack of experience. And
Yeah.
what can they do to become more persuasive in their fundraising efforts?
Traction, 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 you know?
Mhm.
I think it's a lot easier to raise funds when I can go to someone, an investor, and say, hey, I, through my own network, right? I don't, right? So for example, let's say I want to launch another coffee roasting company.
Right.
I can have the branding, I can have the packaging, I can do all the research. Again, it's coffee, so the taste is important, the product and quality of product is important. But through the branding and marketing and kind of and a lot of very cheap, right? Not free, but a lot of cheap early work. It's about growing your audience. So if I'm an investor and a coffee company comes to me and says, "Hey, I have this idea. I want to sell this product to this XYZ." I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna think about it, but I don't know."
Yeah.
If someone else comes to me and says, "Hey, I have this idea. I want to sell this product that does XYZ, and I already have 10,000 people on my email list who register because they want to purchase the product when it's released, and I just need money to then make the product because I already know that there's a market waiting for me." That's more make me more likely to invest. So I think, for Gen Z, Gen Alpha folks who don't necessarily have the years of experience, if you're launching a company, the best thing that you can do is prove that there is a demand for this product. The more you can prove demand and the more that there's an opportunity in any way to articulate traction as part of that demand. If you have gone to market, how many sales have you had, what have you? It doesn't have to be a lot, but you just have to show that there's a demand there, because when it's early stage, the number one thing as an investor I want to know is who's going to buy it.
Right.
Who's going to buy it and for how much and why. And if you have all those answers to them, if you know why someone's buying something, then it's that much easier to sell it to them,
Right.
because you know what problem your product is solving. So I guess long story short, the more that you can show that there's an opportunity and a demand for the product, the better off you are.
I like how you mentioned that you need to get to like these people, like to prove that proof of concept, to have these many people on your email list before you do this. So like, what are some like useful branding methods to get the word out to these people to make them interested, do you think?
Yeah. So I think it's leveraging your network, putting it on socials, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Um, that's a big one. I think depending on what geography you're in, it doesn't hurt to just table somewhere, set up a table and just have people sign up or just kind of talk to people. Um, have people in your network say, hey, can you fill this out? And then send it to 5 people that might be interested in this product. I think depending again on the product, it's interesting to find kind of particular affinity groups. And what I mean by that is, I know someone who was making a lot of products for toddlers, and
Right.
they signed up for, a new mother Facebook group with 100,000 people in it. And then from there, she would market her products. Same thing, Reddit, the subreddits, although, Reddit's going dark about now, but, the subreddits and kind of talk about that. I think,
Right.
all those things are a clear opportunity. The more you can just listen to customers, put stuff in front of their eyes, and be able to kind of pivot the marketing positioning, not the product necessarily, sometimes the product, but I think oftentimes it's about articulating the purpose and the usefulness of that product that has a lot of leeway and opportunity to change and go a long way.
Right. I think, yeah, that's really important. And I think, and this, I think, just going broad here, like in the most ideal situation, how do you envision the economic environment to be in Connecticut in the next 10 years? Like the most ideal, conditions.
Yeah, I think most ideal conditions, we have thriving small businesses, Main Street businesses, small to mid-sized businesses. We also have an opportunity for those small businesses. If I'm a restaurant and I have a particular hot sauce that I make in-house and I serve at my restaurant, I would love for an opportunity for those type of products to be able to then go to market and for that product to be able to be in all the Whole Foods and Stop and Shops in the country, right? So not only honoring the small to mid-sized businesses, but in particular ways or very specific ways, there's opportunity for those small to mid-sized businesses to get the scale through their product, and how we providing avenues and opportunities to create those pathways. Separately, when I look at venture backable companies and innovative driven enterprises, tech enabled enterprises, I would love them to have access to a robust technical assistance, aka entrepreneur accelerators, incubators, mentorship programs that can allow them to be able to create their product, create a strong business around their product, and then eventually gain VC or any type of capital that's most appropriate for their business and their product and their individual needs. Um, so thriving small to mid-sized enterprise ecosystem, thriving innovation-driven enterprise ecosystem, an opportunity for the small to mid-sized entrepreneurs to get access to the kind of larger markets, just through support and mentorship and a lot of great guidance from the technical assistance providers. And then I think the last thing is being able to continue to invest in Connecticut as a place that people are excited to live in. I think, I've lived in Connecticut my whole life. I've traveled around the world, and I always come back here for a reason. And I think as a state, we can do a lot more to make the investments and articulate the beauty and progressive nature and fun that Connecticut has to offer. So I think in the next 10 years, we get the business ecosystems a bit more transparent and accessible. We articulate and make investments that show Connecticut is one of the best places in the world to live. And then we sing our praises and look at the next 10 years.
Yeah, I think that's a great goal to have, because from my experience living in Connecticut for 4 years, I realized there are a lot of opportunities and resources it has for small entrepreneurs. It's just has not been like projected enough into the public yet. I think
Exactly.
if in the next 10 years, if that can be projected to all the people know that where to go if they want to start a business, then upscaling them in the easiest way, I think that will be perfect for
Yeah.
and and what is the biggest problem in the entrepreneurship field right now, do you think?
Um, I think it's suffering from a culture problem. I think, entrepreneurship and innovation isn't being shown as something that everyone is capable of. I'm not saying it's hard, right? But I think with hard work, with a great idea, and with a lot of luck, folks can be able to do it. It's not for everyone, for sure. But I think right now, people just, although they might have a brilliant idea, the culture of the individual and the culture of the systems that the individual has to operate in order to launch their business are not looking at everyone as having the opportunity, the skill set, and the mindset to be able to execute at that level. So I think for me, really just want to make entrepreneurship at all levels a lot more accessible, because we're losing so much money as a country. We're losing so much potential tax revenue as a state, so many potential job losses, or so many losses, so many potential jobs as a state, because we're not operating in a way that is inclusive for everyone to launch their business. I think, the more money that we have in the ecosystem, I think the better off we'll be, and the more entrepreneurs of high quality that we hold to a high standard and a rigorous rigorous checkpoints. I think the better off we'll be as well. So I think that's we have a culture problem in entrepreneurship and the innovation ecosystems. And I think we need to do a lot more to, one, name that, and then two, make the necessary investments to curtail that.
Yeah, but I think we're definitely on the right path to do so.
I
And
agree.
yeah, thank you so much for taking your time for today's interview.
Thank you so much for having me. Really enjoy the conversation.
Thank you so much.